Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we'll be taking a look at the 2024 presidential election. I'll be analyzing each and every state, looking at the races within each state, and talking about the path to 270 electoral votes, as we usually do here. I do want to apologize for not posting the past 2 weeks. I was sick and then I got really busy. But we're back, and I'll hopefully be resuming normal upload schedule as I usually do. But if you can hear a little bit of that, in my voice, my apologies. But I did want to get back up and posting. So, let's just get into this here. We're gonna fill out our safe states for Joe Biden. Again, these are your, I tend to say, usual suspects. I guess these are what you'd normally expect. These are the states that he'll likely win by maybe upwards of 15%. I don't have a specific barometer or a benchmark for it. That's just mostly because I think that safe, likely, lean, tilt correspond more to probability than they do margins, even though margins and probability are often intertwined. But just to kind of give you an estimate, these are states that you'd expect to go a certain way by generally upwards of 15%. Maybe, if it's within 14, it doesn't really matter. But these are just the states that we know are going to vote a certain way and likely by a good margin with that as well. So for Donald Trump, we're going to give him 115 safe electoral votes. Joe Biden's going to get 181. And then the rest of these states are, as I like to say, competitive to some degree, but not all swing states are created equal. Some are going to be very close, very important. They're going to see a lot of visits from each presidential candidate, and others are going to really just be slightly closer than the other states, but still not really within play. And we're going to work our way down here. We're going to start with our likely Joe Biden states, which are states that he's probably going to win by good amounts, but they're not quite safe because maybe there's a certain thing that could go wrong, maybe there's a certain thing that would make it be closer than expected. Regardless, I am just going to go right ahead here. Colorado, I forgot to label as safe. I always forget that one. It's because back in 2020, when I did this so often, Colorado was not a safe Democratic state, but due to trends, and we now know more about the state politically, it's joined the safe column. Regardless, let's go to our likely states here. New Mexico's one, Minnesota's another, Nebraska, 2nd district, that's another one, Virginia, as well as New Hampshire, and so and also Maine at large. I always forget Maine at large because it's up here, but that's 226 electoral votes for Joe Biden. These aren't really worth talking about. Obviously, he won New Mexico and Virginia by upwards of 10 last time. He won New Hampshire and Minnesota and Nebraska second by 7. None of these states or districts are trending right to enough, by enough to make these competitive. And I think that Trump's not really going to try to win these states. He doesn't need any of them. Obviously, he'd like to maybe win Minnesota or Virginia, but it's absolutely not necessary for him. He didn't win either of them in 2016 when he won the Electoral College. So there's better states that he can target just from a strategic standpoint. So to move over to our likely Republican states, I think Alaska is the first one we're going to do. Then we're going to go to Kansas, Iowa, Ohio, and finally Maine 2nd District, as well as Florida, which is on the fence. It's definitely the closest likely state, but we're going to do it because I'm very confident he will win it. Just not by how much, or just I'm a little unsure, but by how much. Alaska, he won it by 10% in 2020. It's left trending. It got 5% bluer between 2016 and 2020. That being said, I don't think it's going to be closer than 7 points this time around. I understand Biden's will probably do well in Anchorage, and, maybe Democrats will have some success in the House race next year with Mary Peltola. That being said, Alaska's going to stay red. Kansas, another left-trending state. Democrats are going to have, some success maybe in Congress, maybe down the line they can make it interesting, but not for now. Iowa and Ohio, these are right-trending states in the Midwest that are getting redder and redder. Obama won both these states both times. He ran for president in 2008 and 2012. That's no longer the case these states due to the trend of college-educated or non-college-educated voters swinging against Democrats, working-class voters swinging against Democrats. They are now no longer friendly to the Democratic Party, and as a result, they're going to be in the Trump column very, very easily. Florida is, this one to me I think is the most interesting. Obviously, aside from Maine 2nd, which I've already kind of in the same bucket as Iowa and Ohio, it's right-trending and working class, and Democrats are losing their appeal to those voters very quickly. Florida, to me, I think could present a wide range of outcomes. It could be closer than we think. It could maybe be a 3 or 4 point victory for Trump, but it could also be a 12-point victory for Trump. So when you look at how Democrats have done recently, in Florida, it's been really bad. They've had like a few minor victories, like winning the mayoral race in Jacksonville. They also have done okay in a few elections, here and there. I think in the January 2022 election, they actually outperformed Biden, but again, that didn't really matter. It was in Miami, and it was in the Miami area, and in November of 2022, the same year, the Miami area was terrible for Democrats, so realistically, does it really mean much? No. But Florida to me is interesting because Democrats, it's a big state. Democrats are losing a lot of ground in Miami. They're going to continue to lose ground in Miami. I think Biden will probably narrowly lose Miami-Dade County. It could be, maybe he holds on to it. It doesn't really matter. Either way, it will be closer than 2020. But what I will say is that when you look at the other cities in the state, like Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, I think Democrats will do okay there. I think that could maybe make up for the margins being lost in Miami every year, but it won't be enough. So I think margin-wise, Florida's a good state to watch, but Trump's going to win it. It's 30 electoral votes I think Republicans are pretty much banking on, and if they were to lose, it would be a pretty huge shock to me. So we now have our, real swing states. These states I think going to be within 5%. You maybe could realistically flip or stay with their political party in any outcome. Obviously, I think it goes without saying, state like Wisconsin's more competitive than a state like Texas. But Texas, has a greater than 20% chance of being won by Joe Biden, potentially this far out. So let's talk about it. We're going to start with Texas. We'll go to our leading Republican states. We'll give them Texas, and that'll be the only one. So to me, Texas is interesting because like Florida, it's a big state. There's areas where Democrats are doing well, there's areas where Republicans are doing well, but it's kind of the reverse. And Florida Democrats have bright spots in the smaller parts of the electorate, right? Like Democrats doing a little better in suburbs of Jacksonville. Maybe they're doing better with college-educated voters outside of Tampa. But does it matter? No, because Miami's so much bigger, it overpowers all of them, and that metro area as a whole is just so friendly to Republicans as of late. Now, Texas is the opposite. Republicans will say, look, we're doing well in Rio Grande Valley. We're doing well with rural Hispanic voters. That's true. But it's, that electorate or that voting block is tiny compared to the millions of people that live in, Austin, San Antonio, the DFW area, and even parts of Houston, which are trending blue, albeit at a slower pace. So Texas is probably going to vote for Trump. I would be very surprised if Biden won it. He has a chance maybe if he flipped a coin 5 times, Biden would, it would go blue maybe once. But I'm going to say that when you look at how Democrats are doing there, just in general, they're not there yet. In the midterms, Beto held up okay in Austin. He did better in Dallas than I think a lot of people were expecting. He didn't do well enough to win. He didn't really come close. If he were to, have come close, maybe, if he only lost by 5 or 6, that would have been really huge for Democrats because it would have, again, in such a redder electorate, if they were able to match Biden's performance in 2020, that would have been huge. That didn't happen. I think as a result, it's pretty hard to see how Biden could, overcome partisanship and win Texas. He'd have to do really well with a lot of moderate Republicans in the suburbs. In Texas, a lot of them, it's a red state at its core, but there are a lot of educated, wealthy Republican voters in the suburbs who maybe don't like Trump that much, would maybe vote for Biden, but, not likely. And so unless Biden can really tap into that group of voters, I don't think he can win Texas. He's not popular. He's not, really a figure with great momentum in American politics right now, even though, maybe Trump is also unpopular. Don't see how Biden could really tap into that and win. So, or win Texas, rather. So I think he still loses it, but it'll be closer than last time. Then you go to our lean D states. I think we're going to look at a few. Michigan and Pennsylvania, to me, are good for Democrats. I think that when you look at the results from these states in the midterms, they were very, very good for Democrats. Michigan, Democrats won the governorship by 11. They won in Pennsylvania by 15. They won the Senate race in Pennsylvania by 5. Michigan, Democrats, did really well in the House. They won both the AG race and the Secretary of State race by 10 and 14 points. So these two states were obviously pretty slanted in the midterms. They're not going to be that slanted this time. Trump's obviously going to do better than Doug Mastriano and Tudor Dixon. I think he'll probably do better than Dr. Oz as well. But again, it's never really good when you get, all the momentum. Again, Republicans got their teeth kicked out in these states in the midterms, and now they're bankrupt in Michigan. They're bordering on it in Pennsylvania. They don't have any momentum or organization to kind of lead, to kind of galvanize heading into 2024. If they can't change that dynamic between now and November of next year, or, even before that, because they're going to have to start organizing before an election date, between now maybe July or August of next year, it's going to be really hard for these states to go for Trump. Trump is a popular figure among a certain type of voter. I don't think it's enough. And so for that reason, suburbs, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Grand Rapids, those 4 cities that they're going to carry Biden to victory in these states, and I think that he'll do just enough to hold on to them by okay margins. Now, the rest of these states I think are tilt. I think Trump will win North Carolina. He won it by 2 in 2020. Maybe he does a point worse this time because of trends, but I would be pretty surprised if Biden actually did win it. I know a lot of people really like him to win it. I know there's a very popular group of people online who really, really have looked into this and they think Biden's going to win it. I respect that opinion, but when you look at how Democrats are generally do there, they can come close, but that extra 1-2% is often Herculean, and I don't think Biden's the guy to do it. He might beat Trump nationwide. Trump is under indictment. He's going to have a lot of legal problems heading into the election. I get that. He is a flawed candidate. Biden's also flawed. Biden is also not popular. Biden is also really dealing with a lot of issues himself electorally. And I think for that reason, North Carolina would maybe flip if Democrats had a better candidate or a better incumbent. That isn't the case. I think Biden's not the guy to do it. I think he would lose North Carolina by 1%, if that. Now, that's the one I want to get out of the way here. The rest of these are really interesting. I think the next easiest one would be Arizona. I'm decently confident Biden will win it because in 2022, the electorate wasn't great for Democrats, but Mark Kelly still won by 5. Katie Hobbs won, so I think she ran a pretty bad campaign, if I'm being honest, and she still won. Obviously, Carrie Lake was a bad opponent, but Donald Trump is also in the same kind of brand of electoral, conservatism that is very, very adamant about the 2020 election being stolen, which is obviously not true, and is also very, very, right-wing Trumpian. Obviously, Trump is a Trumpian himself, so that I think hurts him in Arizona. I think he'll be helped because he will just get better turnout in other rural areas than Masters and Lake did last year, but will it be by enough to overcome what will probably be a pretty huge Democratic showing in the suburbs among educated voters? I don't think so. Arizona is a conservative state. I get that, but there are a lot of voters in the suburbs who just do not like Trump. That was apparent last time. Democrats really couldn't organize in the city of Phoenix due to COVID, and they still won the state because the suburbs were just so opposed to Trump. With Biden being able to send people into Phoenix, canvass, get turnout out from Democratic areas, I think even if Republicans can do a little better in the rural areas, maybe a little better with Hispanic voters, won't be by enough to win the state. I think Biden wins Arizona by maybe 2%. Maybe it could fall into the lean column, but for now, we're going to keep it in the tilt. And then I think Biden wins Wisconsin. I was originally kind of a skeptic of Biden being able to win Wisconsin, but he won it last time. He'll do better in the WOW counties. He might do worse in the random counties with 5,000 people on the border with Minnesota. Those counties don't really matter. When a town in Waukesha has more people than the entire county, with 4,000 people that casts 2,000 votes every election. So Trump will do 5% better in those counties in the driftless and in the northern part of the state. I think he won't really do enough to overcome what he's going to see in the suburbs of Milwaukee, which are still very red, by the way. These are Republican areas that are going to stick with Trump, but just not by enough to overcome Madison. And by the way, Dan County, which is where Madison is, very progressive, very quickly becoming one of the bluest parts of the country. In 2022, Democrats won over 80% of the vote from that county in most races. I think Biden will do that, and I think that because he'll be able to kind of, win over voters from all, kinds of backgrounds in the state. Again, Wisconsin's weird. Democrats do just well enough to usually win it, right? Because they do well in Milwaukee, they do very well in Madison, and they will hold up in some of the working class areas. There's also towns in the western part of the state like Eau Claire and La Crosse, which are usually okay for Democrats. But what matters is, can Biden, outpace Trump in the suburbs? Can he maybe he loses Waukesha County, right? I think he lost it by 32 points last time. I'm probably wrong, but it's somewhere in that ball. Really, all you have to know is that he lost it by 35 last time. Maybe he loses it by 30 this time. That's 20,000 votes he's netting per county. If he can do that, he'll probably win Wisconsin. So it'll be close, but I'm confident that he will win it just because the suburbs are just really, really bad for Trump, especially, now that he's been indicted and there's a lot of moderate voters who maybe won't be able to vote for him this time, So it'll be a close race, but I think probability-wise it's decently tilted towards Biden's favor. Obviously, Trump can win it, but I would say right now it probably is tilting towards Biden by a decent amount. I think Trump wins in Nevada. That's my kind of hot take for this video. And that's mostly because I just don't love Biden's ability to win. Because Nevada's a young state. It's very, very Democrats there are very, very reliant on getting out young voters. And, Catherine Cortez Masto did that last year. She won by 8,000 votes, so she did just enough of it to win, but it was very close. Democrats, could have better turnout all across the board, right? Because the 2022 electorate in Nevada was very red because turnout from Las Vegas was not good. But on the other hand, there are going to be a lot of Trump voters who didn't turn out last time. There's a snowstorm in the rural, super red part of the state that probably, maybe, potentially even cost Lack Salt the race. And so without those factors, I think there's just so many variables at play that I'd rather stick with Trump here. The Republican base in Nevada is a lot more efficient than the Democratic base because Democrats need everything to go right for them to win the state. Obviously, things have gone right. Democrats are usually really good at winning Nevada narrowly. They're kind of like that football team that always wins those one possession games. They just pull it out in the end because they're experienced, and that's certainly worth noting. But next year, I think turnout from youth voters is going to be down. I think that turnout from areas with colleges, UNR, which is in Reno, and then UNLV in Las Vegas, obviously. I think those areas are going to be really bad for Democrats. So Biden will probably lose it. It'll be close, but I think he loses it. And then Georgia. Georgia's the closest state in the country right now. I'll give it to Biden because he won it last time because the trends are really good for Democrats. But again, youth turnout, I think, could be a problem for Democrats. I think black turnout in the city of Atlanta might also be bad for Democrats. And then another thing to consider in Georgia is that obviously the suburbs are really good for Biden. I think he'll do better in those areas than he did last time. He already did very well. He did well enough to win it in 2020. So obviously, if he does better, that's even better for him. But rural black areas saw really bad turnout declines in 2022 across the South. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, they were all really bad for Democrats because they saw really, really low turnout. And if that happens in 2024, Democrats could have an underrated problem in the rural parts of Georgia that they often take for granted. So Georgia, there's a lot of factors at play. It's a big state, a lot of different types of voters casting their votes in 2024 that will affect the breakdown of the race. I think Biden will narrowly win it, but it's a sleeper flip. So that's my prediction as of right now. Not a lot has changed. I would say, obviously, Trump's been indicted and he'll have more legal battles as we get close to election day, but Biden's also unpopular, and there's a lot of things I think Democrats, would like him to do that he's not doing. There's also a lot to be, left to be desired from the administration. I think in the eyes of the American people, Biden, again, like I said, he's unpopular, and I think that people are not really just happy with how things are going, and I think that's going to hurt him. Because, again, every poll you see, Americans think we're headed in the wrong direction. And now, does that mean Trump's the solution? Most people would probably still say no, but, who knows? Unpopular presidents are, hard to get reelected, and I think even though Biden's the incumbent, he's running against a weak opponent, a lot of things can happen. So, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one, and let me know what you want to see next. Thank you.